Moulding the Future Digital Economy. Moderated by Ben Putley, Alkimi Exchange. With Justine Scerri Herrera, MK Fintech Partners. Mike Shafro Job, Xpate. And Simone Mazzuca, Wallex Trust.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us today. I never thought I'd be able to say that I was on a panel that was opened by Acon, so I'll be calling my mother later to tell her that I finally made it. But we're a few panelists short, but I'm very fortunate to be joined today by Dr. Justine. Would you like to introduce yourself, Justine, and take it from there?
Hello. Hi. Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you, Ben. Very privileged to be sharing this panel with you. We already had a very good chat before we came in. So my full name is Dr. Justine Scerri Herrera, and I'm a lawyer by profession. I work at MK Fintech Partners. I'm a partner at the division which heads Fintech, Financial Services and Investment Services. Michael Cipriano is a top-tier international law firm. We have offices in Cyprus, London, Kiev, Dubai, Greece and Malta. In Cyprus, we're quite large, the second largest, with about 200 employees. I was also nominated to be on the Digital Economy Task Force by the government of Malta in June 2020. And I'm very glad to be here and hope we'll have a good discussion which will be of value to you.
So it's quite an impressive CV, so it's probably fair to say that you are right on the cusp of what future economies look like. And I would say, bashfully, that Alkimi Exchange is the same as well. We are a decentralized advertising exchange looking to really bring the best of decentralized finance in transparency of data, instant reconciliation of payments, audibility of data to allow a more effective advertising exchange than what exists with the centralized solutions right now. And I think the ideas of future economies is a very interesting one. And I think, like, to begin with, it's probably worth taking a look at just like a macro view of the world and how it's changed. Namely being that every one of us really has been decentralized into our own homes. You know, like that is a significant change in behaviors, which for me will be a nice leading indicator of what is to come on the technology side. And Justine, would you agree with that? Is that something you're seeing with the work you're doing, the companies that you speak to?
So basically, I've seen a massive progression, specifically since COVID. We've seen a sharp increase and rise in digitization and the way that consumers and businesses had to adapt to this new era. So we moved very quickly from open banking, which is basically an outcome of PSD2 and EMD2. So basically, open banking stated that banks had to open up their infrastructures to fintechs, which revolutionized the banking and payments industry as we know it. And now we are definitely seeing fintechs dominate this space. Of course, fintechs are much more agile, much more consumer user-friendly, much more automated. So they solve many of the gaps and fill many of the issues that banks primarily cannot solve. We're also seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions and partnerships with banks and fintechs. And of course, we've evolved from fintech and open banking to crypto and decentralization, which crypto has been around for some time. But I think we've seen a real maturity in this space since the rise of stable coins, because basically before, as many of you know, cryptos are very volatile. So they missed the third characteristic which crypto needed to fulfill the purpose of money. So stable store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account. It didn't have the stable store of value. So since stable coins have come into the picture, they filled many of the gaps, which led to the boom of DeFi, decentralized finance. So, of course, we're in very, very interesting times. And now we're also seeing the development of the banking side, so central bank digital coins, and a sort of fight between the public sector and the private sector. one of the main questions everyone's faced with is will they be able to live in symbiosis, or will the Fed just drop a massive airdrop on decentralization and disrupt many of the communities which are now flourishing? I don't believe so. I think that you cannot fight the community. It's too large and too strong.
I agree, and I hadn't thought about it in a banking sense, but like challenger banks, the Monzos, the Revoluts of the world have really just taken a big chunk out of institutions, centralized institutions, which is great for innovation, and it's not that it's just happening there either. I think that there was Fortnite versus Apple or Epic Games versus Apple, and the main crux of the issue was that Apple take a 30% rake on all payments that go through the App Store, which for companies like Epic Games and Fortnite wasn't sustainable. And it was really incredible to see that the little guy won, like there's now capacity for new types of payment rails within iOS, which if you look at what Apple have done to device IDs in the advertising world with Facebook, the fact that someone like Epic Games is able to do that is frankly quite impressive in my opinion. And it's really led into kind of this new technology. Hello. Nice to see you.
You're not allowed in now.
Check the website schedule.
No worries. Well, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Tim Heath with Yellow Investments, and very interested in the evolution of the digital world coming forward.
Nice. So yeah, where do you think future economies are going? How and who are molding them?
I'm very, very bullish on the crypto world, obviously.
Yeah.
Just looking at things, how even Facebook have said we're going to change the meta and the whole world. It's a gradual movement coming through the last 10 years, but the world is moving towards this. And if you look at the younger generation, what they're interested in, how they're interacting with TikTok and whatnot, that shift will continue.
I totally agree. And it's like, I can only speak to the UK, but since the pandemic, I think there's been 6,000 new startups for young people that have really fundamentally changed where they get their knowledge, where they were earning money, even where you were buying your food, it now arrived to you in your home. And like that spurred something in people's brains that I don't think you'll be able to put back in a jar. And they are native on this technology. Some people will have grown up and Bitcoin always will have existed, and it's like that cohort of people coming in and maturing and coming into more traditional businesses in the fintech world, or if us in advertising, like there will be fundamental changes. And I was on a panel in London last week, and one of the questions was, how do we attract more talent to the advertising world? And it's not for me to say, it's not for us to say as a market, like their behaviors will change and change the way we do business, and then they will find their fit in whatever industry they become, because it will look very different to what it does right now, and that's very exciting. I mean, you've only got to look at crypto market cap. It's, well, not anymore, best part of $3 trillion. Like that is an obscene asset class that has existed in the last 10 years and will create opportunities, spur on individuals, and really kind of be part of a generational wealth transfer.
No, that's the thing. If we had to follow the money, so for example, this year alone, and perhaps you could tell me a bit more about this since you're in the investment sector. I think there was about 19.5 billion in funding in just fintech alone. So this shows that the consumers and the market's trust are really shifting towards those type of providers and those type of solutions. So for example, we're seeing some crazy statistics like Coinbase has IPO'd, Revolut's valued at about 33 billion, Stripe is valued at about 100 million, massive challenger banks, even Latin America, sort of new bank, are now valued at millions and billions and being funded by persons like Warren Buffett. So we're really seeing fintechs and challengers banks dominate this space, and consumer trust shifting towards this new era. So I'm sure because you're a VC fund, correct? YOLO Investments.
We are, and I think it's even, if you look at it a bit more simply than that, during the pandemic, we all started using Zoom. Now, trying to get Google Meets or Zoom, it was very strange. It was some Skype calls, it was difficult. There was just a mandated shift towards communicating on a conference call. A bit like we've gone from Dogpile and Yahoo to Google, and Google becomes the verb. Now Zoom becomes the verb. And that shifts the whole mindset of people. Now, I don't think, if we're going to look at banking, traditionally, you had bank managers. This has now shifted, and banking online, you now Revolut money. And this is the way I always look at how your shifting trends are happening. It's very difficult to shift the whole mindset, but it will happen. And this is like, we've gone from the industrial revolution to now the information revolution, and this is a seamless digital experience where crypto will play a small part, probably a major part on the underlying banking rails, but from a consumer perspective, a small part on top of that, which is hugely exciting because Swift is shit.
I agree, and I think that you could argue that anyone in this new technology age is a datapreneur, right? Like there's data everywhere. It's like everyone produces data every second. I think each individual creates something like 1,500 megabytes of data every time you use your phone for a day, right? Which is crazy, really, when you think about it. But one thing that I think has been a big shift culturally is, in blockchain in particular, is kind of the surgence of NFTs, right? You have the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is just funny looking apes at the end of the day, but it's actually really, it's communities that were fostered and forged online now have a conduit to come and meet in real life. And that is really what us all as human beings are looking for, to be part of a community, a tribe, whatever you want to call it. And this NFT is a great conduit to that and has added some culture to what was quite a dev-heavy, tech-heavy space in crypto up until really, CryptoKitties was first, but like now really with Ubiquity and the OpenSeas of the world, the nifty gateways, the rareables, it's kind of putting it front and center. And from an advertising perspective, the NFT utility is mind-bending for me. That in crypto, you have communities, and that is different to an audience. Like in this situation here, it's one-way flow of conversation, but in crypto, it's two-way flow. Like we have 20 admins that will monitor our channel and answer questions regularly about the project, about the token, about the utility of it, who's going to use it, and that allows us to form and shape what the product will look like in the future. And yeah, we've put a lot of effort into the NFT world, and we're, I think, 8 days out from, will be one of the first NFT games that you can play on the internet. So we're hugely excited about that, demonstrating utility of an NFT to advertisers in the future, and start to move into the threshold, or the vacuum rather, that Facebook changed their name to Meta has created, in terms of you have CMOs, you have CTOs, you have CEOs everywhere in the world kind of going, what's an NFT, what's a metaverse? We should probably really start leaning into that. So yeah, Facebook have done us a favor in the blockchain space, I think.
Further from that, you've got your social gaming with your Zynga and your Facebook, which many millions of people around the world were playing for a long time. Now you've got the Axie Infinity, so Zed run the Simone gaming, which is utilising that utility of the NFT, which gives people a chance to earn money, not through gambling, that's the other tent, but this is a different mindset. Million daily active users on Axie Infinity, which has come out of nothing, and most people who are not immersed in that world don't know about it.
It's the younger generation, definitely.
Yeah.
I think 40% of the younger generation are already, trading crypto, using crypto, investing in NFTs. And it is, the future, because the younger generation will dominate where we're going. So I think NFTs are trading at like 10.7 billion just this third quarter alone. And then NFTs mixed with gaming, that's just an explosion of activity over there and opportunities. And then all the underlying assets are also flourishing, such as Solana and Axie. So it's just a whole new world. And as you said, metaverse, we're heading towards that direction.
And I think, unknowingly, a lot of us have already bought NFTs, If you've ever played Candy Crush, if you've ever played Angry Birds, if you've ever played Call of Duty or Fortnite, you may have bought lives or skins in a game. And particularly for younger generations, there's whole cohorts of people that will spend hundreds of dollars to have a digital character that looks different to the friends that they play with on a regular basis. And that is the demonstration of people having a perception of value in a digital asset, and there's billions of people. The gaming industry is bigger than the film industry right now. There's millions and billions of people that have been buying NFTs within a centralized metaverse like Fortnite that can now just kind of explode onto the open web and do it everywhere.
It's interesting to see how it will play out. And also in terms of regulation, I'm a lawyer and we didn't speak about regulation at all, which is a bit of a breath of fresh air, to be honest.
That ugly word. That ugly word.
But basically, it's interesting to see what will be regulated, what won't. It's a bit of a wild west at the moment. Obviously, the purists will argue that we should be completely disintermediated, be completely decentralized, and others will argue to validate the industry and to protect, we should move towards some sort of regulation. So we'll like to see if these NFT platforms and operators will be subject to AML obligations, or will they run away and go to jurisdictions in order to fall outside of these regulations. But I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion on it. I think if you're a good operator and you do things well, you can still opt to, protect your consumers and the market without being regulated. And I think the market can actually regulate itself, and the providers which are doing a good job will flourish at the end of the day. I'm not advocating against regulation, but there was once a time of free open banking back in the 1800s where we didn't have central banks, and private operators and money providers just did a good job, and they maintained market, not monopolies, but the private sectors were flourishing as opposed to the public sector. So we could move to a sort of era of free and open self-regulation.
Where I see the biggest opportunity and all this shift in the world, it's actually the financial rails to help people buy NFTs to participate in the metaverse. And as a VC, that's where we're investing to try and enable the world to participate in this new economy.
Yeah, I think Web3 wallets are incredible. I think they've got a bit of a habit of making like amazing fintech platforms look a little bit dated in kind of what's possible and what you're able to do. And yeah, the future of the payment rails, I think, will be incredible. Like the stuff that we won't even imagine that will exist,
Which bank launches the first Web3 office? That's my question.
Pardon me, sorry?
Which bank launches the first Web3 wallet?
Probably the SEC or the Fed, maybe, See, I think we're slightly running over a little bit, but I think, yeah, I'll throw it over to you both to to really wrap it up. Like, what are you most excited about kind of for the future of economies?
I'd say I'm most excited about the markets and the technologies maturing. So we've already moved from Bitcoin to EVM to cross multi-party chains. And I think once that last leg of the technology is really matured, we'll be able to see the proper decentralized community flourish.
I'm excited, being 8 years in the crypto world, that there's actually people accept it now. And it's our responsibility to keep onboarding more people and to take that first Uber or Bolt ride, which is the scariest one. Once you do it the first time, it's much, much easier the second time. And you think, why wasn't I doing this before?
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, to summarize, I think I'm just excited to see the ubiquity of blockchain flourish over the next 10 years in much the same way it has done in the previous 10 years. So yeah, thank you all for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure to be joined by my panelists. And yeah, we'll be around afterwards. If you have any questions, please come over and ask one. Thanks, everyone.